Good afternoon. This is Father Marcus from the Costa Blanca Anglican Chaplaincy, and I'm delighted that you've joined us once again, so good to see you. Thank you very much for that. We're continuing with our little series called Yeah But, and today it's Yeah, but you don't have to go to church to be a Christian. I've heard that so many times, and I remember hearing it when I was a curate. I got ordained when I was about 12, and my first parish was Eastbourne, and my mission was to spend time with people who didn't go to church. With the idea, of course, of trying to get them to go to church. But so many people used to say to me, yeah, but you don't have to go to church to be a Christian because, I can go and say my prayers when I'm taking my dog for a walk up on the hills. And I used to smile sweetly and nod and all that. But in my heart, I used to think, no, you don't. You don't do that. You don't do that. You're just saying that as an excuse. Later on, of course, when I got a dog and went walking up on the hills, I realised it's a great place to say your prayers. And so I'm the first to admit that there are lots of very lovely, very holy, very spiritual people who don't go to church and do say their prayers. But there is more to life than just taking your dog for a walk and saying your prayers. There is something wonderful about communing with nature and being awestruck by the whole wonder of creation. There is a place for that, without a doubt there is a place for that, a major big place for that. But it's not the be-all and end-all of everything. Other people have said, yeah, but you don't have to go to church. That's a sort of a man-made religion, and it's what people tell you to do, and God's not confined to his church. And again, I'll be the first to admit, God, of course, is not confined to his church or to his sacraments. But I wouldn't so much say that it was a man-made thing. No, Jesus says, do this in remembrance of me. And Christians have found no better thing to do in 2,000 years than to gather together and to open up the scriptures and to break bread together. Never found anything better to do. Other people have said, yeah, but I don't know what I believe. I don't understand it. I don't know what's going on. I just don't get it. I don't know what I think. Well, who does? Who does? I mean, we're all on this spiritual journey, and we're all walking our path towards wherever it is that we're going, and none of us have got it completely sewn up, and none of us know all of the answers. And it may be that church can help, and stuff happens at church that does encourage us on our spiritual journey. So I'm just going to come up with a few reasons why it might be helpful to go to church, and these aren't in order, and there are lots of other reasons as well, but these ones just might help. So the first one is to do with fellowship and friendship. Churches are full of some fascinating and some wonderful and some lovely and some ordinary and some strange and some peculiar and some generous and some loving people. The early church grew really fast because what they did was attractive to others. They looked after one another. They shared their stuff with people who need it. They cared for the orphan and the widow and the people who are isolated, and they embraced people. And we still do that. And there's something lovely about meeting up with a group of people who are also on a spiritual journey and walking it together. And no one's going to look down on someone who's new thinking, well, you don't know very much, do you? Or no one's going to look down on someone who's not been before saying, fancy that, they don't know what they're doing. Of course it's not like that. It is weird going to a church for the first time, or if you haven't been for a long time, but you'd be made very welcome, absolutely very welcome. The second good thing about going to church is you hear scripture. You hear it as opposed to just reading it. And the scriptures are written and designed to be heard. And when you hear it, sometimes it comes alive in a way that doesn't happen when you're just reading it through. And sometimes when you read it through, you get a little bit bogged down, and perhaps if you're not going to church, you don't know which bits of the Bible to read, and you can find some really heavy going stuff that is going to just drag you down if you're not careful. So there's something lovely about going to church and hearing the scripture. And every time we go in Anglican church, every time we go to a service, there's communion, whatever else happens, you will hear a bit of the gospel, the message, the news, the story of Jesus Christ, and you hear it out loud, and it comes alive. And the third thing is that you get to hear a sermon. Now, I've got a bit of a bias towards sermons because I do them, and I preach them, I give sermons. But so I'm not talking about mine. Mine are all nonsense and rubbish. Right? You don't want to go anywhere where you're going to hear me. But I've got some colleagues and some other people, and I have heard in my life some incredible, inspiring and uplifting and challenging and informative and educative and exciting and riveting and funny sermons. And you don't hear them if you don't go. You don't hear them if you don't go. So there we are. You might discover how much church has changed the lives of a whole range of people. People who felt isolated or lost or lonely or grieving or bereaved or misunderstood. And they find themselves in a worshipping community where they're embraced and they're accepted and they're loved and they're welcomed. And sometimes if you're going through a tough time, you'll find someone in church who will walk with you, who will just be alongside you. And you will always find someone who will listen to you without making any judgment. And there's something wonderful about going to a place and knowing that you can be yourself and find someone there. If you ask around, you can find someone there who will be a great listener. And on your own, I don't know, but if in church you can find someone who can listen. And one that's really important to me and to a lot of other people is it's at church where we receive our communion. That's the service where we have the bread and the wine. Jesus teaches us that we do this in remembrance of him. And as I said at the beginning, Christians have found no better thing to do than to break bread together. It becomes one of the most beautiful things that we can do the more we understand it, the more we listen to it, the more we embrace it, the more we digest it. It becomes something that is central to our life and to our spiritual journey. It might not begin like that, and there is a process of trying to understand what this thing of breaking bread is all about. But the more we understand it, the more we talk about it, the more we embrace it, the more we do it, the more Christ-like we become. And it's a glorious transformation, and it's a journey that uplifts and inspires. So, yeah, you can be a Christian without going to church. Of course you can. And there are plenty of Christians who are outside of the church. And you can experience the wonder and beauty of God outside of the church. Absolutely you can. And you can find things and people in church who will get on your wig without a shadow of doubt. But there's lots of wonderful things that you can and do experience in church that you wouldn't if you were just on your own or just outside. So here's the thing. If it's not part of your normal pattern, give it a little think. Just have a little wonder about it and think, okay, maybe I'll give it a try. Maybe I'll just mosey on down there and see what happens. And I can say with confidence that the churches that are open that are part of the Costa Blanca Anglican chaplaincy are safe places to be. They're COVID safe, and you will be made very welcome. You'll be made very welcome indeed. And if you're watching this or listening to this any other part of the world, then I can't vouch for the churches that are near you, but I'm sure that if you asked, if you were concerned, you would discover that they are COVID safe too, because we're all following the guidelines that have been set for us. So take this as an invitation. This is Father Marcus inviting you at some stage when it's right for you to come and join us in church. And if you want to talk about anything, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. and we would love to see you. So bless you, bless you, bless you. Until next time.